On the news, low voter turnout trailed Lagos State local government and councillor elections. Despite low turnout, Lagos State Governor Sanwo-Olu commends LASIEC for conduct of And as the Labour Party declares presidential ticket open, FCT Senator Ireti Kingibe defects to the African Democratic Congress ADC, cites factional crisis. Many thanks for tuning in to News Now. I am Simisola Adigun. There was a very low turnout of voters on Saturday, July 12, 2025 in Lagos as the state held elections to fill all the chairmanship and councillors' positions across the 20 local government and 37 local council development areas of the state. Despite a public appeal by Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu urging residents to actively participate, most residents shunned voting across several parts of the state. Our correspondent who monitored the situation in the metropolis reports that many polling units were largely deserted, with only a handful of voters at the polling units.
From Ikeja to Egbeda and beyond, many traditional voting points showed no signs of polling unit setup in the early hours of the election. Movement across the city remained heavily restricted. Deserted roads became makeshift football fields, shops stayed shuttered, and police presence was visible across major routes, all in line with the enforced curfew. Despite a slow start and low turnout, some voters showed up determined to cast their ballots. Many described the process as peaceful, urging others to participate. However, some expressed disappointment, calling it a one-party race lacking real competition.
Turnout of people is very low as in the turnout. So we are expecting more people to come out. We have been able to go to our members to come out and massively to come and vote for the right person of their choice. So that is exactly what we are practicing now.
The cause of the low turnout, I think, is nonchalant of many people. So that's what I think about it. And this is their civic right.
We started election around after 9. So we have been voting, people have been voting, they go to their house. There's no problem. So everywhere is peaceful.
The election actually is almost like a one-party thing. There's no opposition. There's no other posters of people from other parties that are participating in this election. So it's just a one-way thing for the APC.
In Ward D of Aurelia Agege LCDA, election observers criticized the late start in many polling units and called for LASIEC to be held accountable. They also expressed concern over low voter turnout, urging citizens to take civic responsibility seriously.
From across the state, the election started about 9:30 a.m. in some of the local governments. And that is a question who all posed to LASIEC, because the time we got to know that the election was supposed to start was 8 a.m. While we are starting at 9:15, 9:30 a.m., I wouldn't know. On the average, the election can be assumed to have started in many of the local governments as about past 9 a.m. So one expects that, just like INEC, when there's a delay in starting like this, that shortfall will be added to the, to the closing time. So one expects that the closing time, that information would have gotten to the LASIEC authorities so as to make compensation for voters, that voting time it will no longer end at 3 p.m. but rather maybe at 4 or 5 p.m. depending on when they start at various polling units. But by and large, elections from reports gathered is going on peacefully.
At Ward W in Ikeja local government area, Anifo-Oshe community recorded improved turnout with a larger number of voters seen at the polls. APC chairmanship aspirant Akeem Dauda praised LASIEC for handling the late start efficiently and expressed confidence in victory, citing strong turnout and his campaign efforts.
Well, for now, I think I will give them 80%. Though we have a little delay in the morning, we have logistic problem in the morning, but after that, things have been going smoothly. And why I'm giving them that kudos is that the method they adopted this time around, which is accreditation and voting immediately. Give the voter easy right. You just check your name, doing accreditation and voting immediately. So I think it's a good process.
While the atmosphere remained largely peaceful across Lagos, the 2025 local government elections highlighted persistent challenges, from voter apathy and weak competition to operational delays. Victoria Akonde, TV360 News, Lagos.
Reports from several polling units during the Lagos state local government and council elections revealed delays and slow start in some areas. Our correspondent Okwayemi Owosheni brings us this report on activities at different polling units where logistics and mixed voter experiences shaped the exercise.
Despite reassurances from the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission that all necessary arrangements were in place for the local government elections, voting did not commence as scheduled in multiple polling units as electoral officials arrived late. Polling stations also experienced low voter turnout in the early hours, with empty queues and slow accreditation.
Election, we heard it begins by at most 8 o'clock. But the registrars, they turned in about to 9, after 9, and some of them even to 10. Yes, some of them to 10. But so far so good, they've been doing well. The little I've seen, they've been doing well.
One is not a major factor, which is logistics, then the other one happens to do with while we're waiting for other parties, agents / their representative. Till now, we've not seen any of their representative, and the time is 10 o'clock. So I told them that we can't keep waiting because the government said the curfew is from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we can't keep waiting forever. We have to do what we're supposed to do. So that's why I told them to just go ahead. And I liaised with the LASEC officers. Their presiding officer just left now. So she's overseeing the Oko chauffeur, and she nodded to what I said.
It didn't actually start by 8, but a few minutes, like maybe almost 9, that's when they started. Because the INEC, they came like around 8, that's when they got here. So before they set up and everything, so it was 9 before people started voting. So far, the election has been, the turnout has been minimal, not so much, but it's been okay.
Amid the challenge, voters say the process was itch-free compared to previous elections, with accreditation and voting relatively seamless.
This is so seamless that I was even surprised I finished voting, because I came in and within 2 minutes I had done my voting. I was just about going back to my house when you called me. So I think the process today is much better than what I experienced in 2023.
Here is better, well organized, well planned. I give kudos to INEC and there are people that are managing the election.
This looks very easy for us. I don't know why the turnout is not still very large, but people are coming out. I think they are coming out in trickles, but it's quite easier than the previous ones. The previous ones it was rowdy, but this one was peaceful, and seamless.
The APC chairmanship candidate for Koshofe local government area and the current chairman expressed optimism that despite the low early turnout, his party remained confident of securing victory.
As you can see what I've been able to achieve in the last 4 years, it's unbelievable. And that's why you're seeing the turnout of people coming to vote, because it has now turned to, it's now a situation of what have you actually achieved in the shortest period of time when you had the opportunity to govern. And that's what you can see now. Next 4 years, infrastructural development as usual, education, healthcare, youth development, I definitely know by God's grace I'll win the elections because I've done so well. And you can see the positive reaction of people when they see me. And I'm sure they just want to come and vote for Moyo Ogunlere for council chairman again. I'm sure of that.
With voting concluded, Attention now turns to the outcome of the polls and what it could mean for the future of grassroots governance in Lagos State. Okpeyemi Owusheni, TV360 News, Lagos.
All right, now electoral officers have returned to collation centers across Lagos State in readiness to count the ballot papers. Let's get details from our correspondent, Okpeyemi Owusheni, at the Ikeja local government. Okpeyemi, now that voting is over, what's the current situation at the collation center where you are? Has collation commenced?
Currently at the Ikeja Local Government Area Collation Center, where plans for the collation process are fully in place, are on their way at the moment. As you can see, the center is fully set and electoral officials are around the building waiting for the process to begin, which has not started yet. I've also been informed that ballot boxes and result sheets are being transported from polling units across the Ikeja local government area. However, the collation process is not going to start until about an hour's time. Also around the building, there is a heavy presence of security officials, making sure that everything goes on smoothly and there is no issue during the collation process. Over to you, Simi.
I'll go back to the issue of the collation, the counting of the votes. Has there been any communication on what time exactly the votes will be counted?
All right, thank you.
Know the results of the election.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we've been informed that collation process would not start until all the polling units have brought their ballot boxes and result sheets to the collation center. Then the collation process will begin, and that's when the results for this local government area, that's Ikeja local government area, will be announced. There's no specific time, but information reaching me is that as soon as all the ballot boxes from the polling units within this local government area gets here, the collation process will begin and the results will be announced thereafter.
All right then. Very much for the update. We'll keep track of the results of the election. Thank you very much. Moving on, the low turnout of voters in the Lagos State local government and council elections now is a major topic across board. Earlier on, I spoke to an election observer and member West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, Omori Yaigbe, to get his thoughts on the conduct of the election and low voter turnout.
Yesterday was exactly 1 year following the Supreme Court judgment. And the Supreme Court judgment was largely on financial autonomy. And that the JAC, the Joint Allocation Committee, which is between the state and local authority, doesn't work well for a federated system like Nigeria. And the Supreme Court was very clear that the resource of local government belongs to local government and that it should not go to the state. And after that judgment by the Supreme Court, what did the federal government do? Set up a committee to review decision of the Supreme Court. And the committee, apparently, I don't know, let me not discredit what they've done, but before you know what was happening, there was a CBN a statement that all local authorities, the 774 local authority in the Federation, should come over and open an account with the central bank so that the direct funding can go. But why CBN was requesting for that opening of account, they requested from local government a financial audited statement for the last year. I mean, how do you expect local government to get that? But in any case, that's not the conversation. So there's a difference between the Supreme Court ruling and the local government election of Lagos State today. What you are seeing what you saw today, that literally people didn't show up, is as a result of the backsliding of the federated system of Nigeria, that the local government system is not truly local government as it were. Local government is supposed to be the third tier of the federation. So there's a federal government, there's a state, and there's a local government. But in this case, the local government is subservient within the state architecture, whereas the federal government does not control the state in a way that a state controls local government. So as it were today, people just assume that It's a ceremonial to gather or to appoint, to run an election. But they know that the will of the people is already one-way dimensional. So it's obvious that Lagos today, the CF will announce APC chair and councillors all through. They know. People know. It's not just in Lagos. It's in Osun. It's in Anambra. It's anywhere local government elections are held in this country. The state party, the party in which the governor belongs, usually sweep across. And if you, it's not even in FCT. In FCT election of 2022, the same thing happened. Even though that was conducted by INEC, people in FCT, particularly in Ama, did not even know election was going on. People were moving as it were. They didn't know that there was going to be an election. In any case, look at Lagos. Was there even campaign? How much campaign goes into the process that led to today? How many campaigns?
Right. So we'd also want you to speak to the late arrival of LASIAC officials at various polling units, which was also a general problem. And despite reassurances by the electoral body that all was set for the conduct of the election, voting began behind scheduled time. And now, why is this always the case in every election?
So, man, with all due respect to SIEC, I won't compare SIEC and INEC, but you would have expected that SIEC would have done better in Lagos. But again, SIEC depend largely on INEC to conduct elections. So, for instance, the registered voters belong to INEC. The polling units that are demarcated already belong to INEC. So SIEC does not have its own register of voters of Lagos State. SIEC does not operate differently from the polling unit, which are already been delineated. So at the end of the day, we are going to see the usual challenge. So when we blame INEC for logistical deployment, at this time we have to rethink that even Lagos alone, Lagos, one state, still deploy materials late. It therefore means that logistics, as it were, is a phenomenon that is associated with Nigerian elections. And we must stop blaming INEC for late deployment. However, I don't know the strategy that SIEC deployed by way of ensuring that there's a super rack, that's registration area council where INEC used to deploy closer to the polling unit ahead of the election. Even with that, those super racks still end up delaying deployment of polling material to polling stations. So what has happened in Lagos is likely the same challenge, which also impacts on INEC. Maybe we will hear from SIEC later why they deploy late. But importantly, it is those who have been commissioned to move material from one place to material and personnel material from one location to another. Apparently, they may have slowed down and they may not have honored the contract. But with all due respect, it's a phenomenon in Nigeria election.
That was Omoru Yaibe, an election observer and member West African Democracy Solidarity Network, WADEMOS, lending his thoughts on the conduct of the Lagos State local government and council elections. Moving on, despite low turnout, the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has expressed satisfaction with the peaceful and well-coordinated conduct of the local government and council elections across the state. Speaking after casting his vote at polling unit 006 Ward A, Lagos Island local government area at exactly 11:10 a.m. on Saturday, the governor lauded the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission LASIAC for its efficient handling of the polls. Accompanied by his wife, Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, the governor praised the calm atmosphere and the professionalism of electoral officers, just as he acknowledged the minor logistical delays in the early hours of the day, mainly related to transportation restrictions.
The officers are on ground, right, and we've conducted, my civic exercise very well, and you can see that the atmosphere, all of the agents for all the parties are on ground, and in 3-4 minutes, it's all over. To report and to see what is here, it's extremely very peaceful. We have loads and loads of observers, and people just want to sort of like learn, the lessons, But quite frankly, watching on the TV, maybe there are 1 or 2 logistics in 1 or 2 places, but I think they've also resolved them, because I was actually on the TV in the last 1 hour. You could see, I'm monitoring on the TV before I left. But you know how typical it is. Early morning, vehicular movements, the buses will not come on time. But the beauty of it is all the officers, all the ad hoc staff are on ground, to go to their polling units, and they have all their materials. The message with the local government is they're an arm of government, they're an important arm of government, right? And you can see that's what our democracy, and that's what our constitution stipulate. They are very independent, and they're very, and we've been advocating for their independence right from the, and that's why we're happy. And you can see that a lot of them, have projects, have deliverables that they are competing among themselves. So we're excited. We're truly excited, about that. And they are complementary. They all take, our team's agenda, the Renewed Hope agenda, and they run with it. They run with it even at their, at their local government LCDA level. Regarding LASTMA being 25, I think it's remarkable for them. 25 years in the life of an institution, an enforcement institution that started at the beginning of this democracy.
Let's switch to party politics. Senator representing the Federal Capital Territory FCT, Reti Kingibe, says she has defected from the Labour Party to the African Democratic Congress, ADC, ahead of the 2027 general elections. Speaking with journalists in Abuja, Kingibe said her defection was a deliberate move, citing the current crisis rocking the Labour Party. Responding to concerns that her defection might cost her the Senate seat based on constitutional provisions, Kingibe said the Labour Party is currently split into two factions, a situation which she argued legally allows her to move. Meanwhile, the Labour Party has declared its 2027 presidential ticket open, stating that no politician will be favored in the process of picking aspirants. Speaking at a press briefing in Abuja on Friday, the party's National Publicity Secretary, Abayomi Arabambi, disclosed plans to conduct primary elections for its members who wish to lead the party's quest in the 2027 presidential elections. Arabambi further described the selection of Peter Obi in 2023 as a blunder with lasting consequences and a betrayal of Nigerians, insisting that the party is set to correct its mistake ahead of the elections in 2027. I will take a pause now. When News Now returns, U.S. government sanctions Cuban president and other top officials for human rights violations. Stay with us for more stories. Again, let's brief you on our main stories. There was very low turnout of voters on Saturday, July 12 in Lagos as the state held elections to fill all the chairmanship and council positions across the 20 local government areas and 37 local council development areas of the state. Despite a public appeal by Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu urging residents to actively participate, most residents shunned voting across several parts of the state. We also told you that despite the low turnout, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu expressed satisfaction with the peaceful and well-coordinated conduct of the local government and council elections across the state. Speaking after casting his vote on Saturday, the governor commended the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission last year for its efficient handling of the polls. And just in case you missed any of our news bulletins or for more updates, you can catch us on Limex World TV and AVO TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on X, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery and Apple Store. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. Business in a decisive move to enhance aviation infrastructure and facilitate night flight operations at the Victor Atta International Airport in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State Governor Umo Eno has approved and released the sum of 1.194 billion naira for a comprehensive overhaul of critical airport facilities. According to the State Commissioner for Information, the approved funding covers the replacement of navigational aids, the upgrade of airfield lighting, and the payment of service charges to the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, in line with the governor's broader vision to develop world-class aviation infrastructure and position Akwa Ibom as a prime destination for tourism and investment. The governor also issued an 8-week deadline to the airport management now for full implementation of the project, warning that any failure to meet the target will attract strict sanctions. And on the foreign scene, the U.S. State Department has imposed sanctions on senior Cuban officials, including President Miguel Diaz-Canel. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, announced as he marked the 4th anniversary of a brutal crackdown on historic anti-government protests. In a post on X, Rubio said that the State Department would be restricting visas for Cuban regime figureheads and their cronies, citing their roles in the Cuban regime's brutality towards the Cuban people. Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, also announced that the State Department had added the Torreque Hotel to its list of restricted entities, aiming to prevent U.S. dollars from funding the Cuban regime's repression. And a boat carrying about 40 refugees and migrants has capsized off the coast of the Dominican Republic, resulting in the deaths of 4 individuals and leaving approximately 20 others missing. According to authorities, the Dominican Civil Defense reported that 17 people were rescued from the vessel. The boat was reportedly headed toward Puerto Rico, a territory of the United States. The tragedy adds to the list of migrating Haitians and Dominicans, many of whom risked their lives in unsafe vessels in pursuit of better living conditions across the Caribbean. And on sports, Super Falcons head coach Justin Madugu has affirmed that his team will push for victory against Algeria in their final group match at the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, WAFCON. The Falcons have already secured a place in the quarterfinals after back-to-back wins over Tunisia and Botswana. The 9-time champions need just a draw to finish top of Group B. Madugu emphasized the team's commitment to maintaining their unbeaten run in the tournament, adding that they will adopt strategic tactics to secure all 3 points. Finally, despite a devastating civil war, Sudanese football clubs are pressing ahead in their quest to be crowned national champions and secure qualification for the 2025-2026 Confederation of African Football Competitions. An 8-club mini-league is currently taking place in Sudan, even as the country continues to grapple with a conflict that has claimed tens of thousands of lives. Matches are being staged at 2 stadiums in the northeastern area controlled by the Sudanese army, who have been battling the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces since April 2023. And that's it on News Now. Many thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.